What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 272 of Hashtag AskGSM here today for February 13th, 2019. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. And first and foremost, my apologies for the episode going up oh so late here today. The last week and especially the last few days have been absolutely hectic. But nonetheless, here we are breaking down your questions from Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section of this very video. I'll include it in next week's edition. So, without further ado, here, first question comes from Joe M. from YouTube. First two questions, that is. He actually sent these in last week for last week's episode, but they didn't make the cut, and they're still relevant enough where I thought I could still answer them this week. So, coming from Joe M. from YouTube, his first question was, do you think the Elimination Chamber match for the WWE Championship this year may have the most talented cast we've ever seen in the Chamber match if we're going solely off of in-ring ability? That's a good question. We've had a lot of chamber matches. It definitely ranks high up there. I can't say with full certainty that it is the most star-studded chamber match ever. There's been a lot of stinkers over the years, but like on paper, not even thinking about execution or build-up or anything. Going strictly off of star power, this match has got to be up there if it's not leading the list. And obviously, I think of the initial installment, the first ever chamber, which ranks high up there as one of the greatest chambers ever from MSG Survivor Series 2002, which was won by Shawn Michaels. The match consisted of Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Booker T, Kane, Chris Jericho, and Rob Van Dam. So I think that one would give this year's a run for its money, or the other way around, rather. Aside from that one, not too many chamber matches stick out in terms of like greatest and most star-studded chamber matches ever in terms of in-ring talent. The 2014 one, from whatever reason, I remember it being Christian, Sheamus, Cesaro, Bryan, Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, and John Cena. That's a pretty star-studded chamber match, too. Other ones that come to mind, we had one a couple years ago that had like Baron Corbin in it and The Miz, so maybe not that one, but this one, going off of strictly in-ring ability, is pretty damn good. Even taking out Mustafa Ali and putting in Kofi Kingston, it still ranks high up there, so I'm not so sure I would put it at number one. Maybe I remember the first ever one better just because the match was so fucking great. We have to wait and see in terms of how great this year's Chamber is going to be with the men. But if it's great, then it may rank high up there. But as it stands right now, it is definitely one of the more star-studded Chamber matches I've seen in several years, if not ever. Joe's second question: since it's unlikely they'll be able to get most fans invested in a one-on-one match, and a one-on-one feud rather, do you think the Cruiserweight Championship should be defended in a multi-man ladder match at WrestleMania where they can steal the show and the crowd will be guaranteed to react? That's actually not a bad idea. Now, in years past, I wasn't a big fan of that. Obviously, last year we had the Cruiserweight Championship tournament, so that was the singles match between Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali, which was a great match in the WrestleMania kickoff show. The year before that, I was glad they went for a one-on-one feud because it was the two biggest stars in the division at that point, that being Neville and Austin Aries. This year, I feel like we don't really have that. 205 Live, at least in my opinion, has felt like it's lost a little bit of its luster since Mustafa Ali went up to SmackDown Live and Cedric Alexander's kind of bowed down a bit after losing a lot of his recent matches. So, yeah, that being said, this year might be the year where we see the multi-man like Cruiserweight Championship ladder match or like a Cruiserweight Open, which we saw back at WrestleMania 20, I think it was. The only real downside to that is that we just saw a multi-man Cruiserweight Championship match back at the Rumble with Buddy Murphy, Akira Tozawa, Hideo Itami, and Kalisto. Now, they could do something similar with completely different guys if they wanted to. But, like, if it's not a multi-man match or multi-man ladder match, whatever you want it to be, stipulation-wise, who else is it going to be? Akira Tozawa's going for the gold on Sunday. I don't think he should win. I don't think he will win, that being Akira Tozawa. Really, who else is there? We've seen Buddy Murphy and Cedric Alexander 3 times. There's no reason to do a WrestleMania rematch between them. Mustafa Ali has since moved on to SmackDown Live. Unless they bring in someone like a Kushida or, ACH or even Trevor Lee. Kushida hasn't officially signed yet, by the way. It's heavily rumored, but he was not announced with the rest of them in the recent Performance Center recruit group, whatever it was, on WWE.com. Trevor Lee was announced, ACH was announced, no Kushida, and no Killshot. Whatever his name is on the indie scene, I forgot. Shane Strickland, that's his name. I talked about him here on the show before a few weeks ago, about a month or so ago. But yeah, if it's none of those new guys, I honestly don't know who else you can have Buddy Murphy face at WrestleMania and have it make sense. Even if it was Kushida, would people really care? Like, Alexander and Ali was great. The crowd was not all that into the match. From what I remember, I may be way off here, but from what I remember, I do not remember people going apeshit crazy for Cedric Alexander versus Mustafa Ali. So, and it was a great match, and I'm glad they did it, but I think a multi-man ladder match may be the route to take this year. Put in Humberto Carrillo, put in Drew Gulak, put in Leo Rush. A lot of those newer guys that have not really been all that prominently featured in the Cruiserweight Championship picture recently. That wouldn't be a bad idea. Tony Nese, maybe. Noam Dar. They had a great no DQ match on Tuesday, but that might be the right route to take, because if it's not a multi-man match of any sort, I don't know who else you put up against Buddy Murphy. And that, let alone people, will they care? Probably not. Even if the feud is really, really good, will most fans in attendance at WrestleMania care? Likely no. The answer is no. FD from Facebook, with the recent case of New Japan Pro Wrestling struggling to get their Japanese talents to the New Beginning shows in the U.S. due to the recent government shutdown, what do you think will happen with major indie wrestling promotions to bring in top international stars to New York for their shows come WrestleMania weekend should the shutdown continue? What will the major and minor indie promotions have to do in ensuring that they can handle all the visas of all the top international talents from overseas for their shows should the U.S. government shutdown continue? I honestly have no clue. I don't know how the government shutdown is working. I really have no clue when it's going to be back up and running, if it's been shut down twice now. I honestly don't pay too much attention to that stuff, which I really should. I don't. Maybe I should, knowing that it's going to affect WrestleMania weekend and top indie stars being brought in for WrestleMania weekend and the New Japan stars and stuff like that. I had heard all the controversy around the New Japan stars not being able to make a recent tour of the U.S., and it was a lot of like the Gaijin guys. Is that the name? Is that a Gaijin? I don't know how you pronounce it, but like a lot of their American talent, like Juice Robinson, Jay White, maybe. That was about it. Beyond that, like Okada, Tanahashi, those guys were not able to make it due to the visas not getting clearance or something because of the government shutdown. Again, I'm not sure how exactly that works, so I'm not exactly all that perfect of a person to answer this question, to be quite honest with you. But it's a big blow to New Japan. I mean, they already lost Kenny Omega. Like, that's their biggest American star right there. I'll talk more about Jay White in a second, because FD's second question was about Jay White, but losing Omega is a pretty big blow. New Japan is not going to be, stretching for star power. They still have Okada. They still have Tanahashi. They lost the Young Bucks. They lost Cody. They lost Kenny Omega. But Kota Ibushi recently announced that he was sticking around, like I said, Okada, Tanahashi. They have a lot of other great stars. Jay White, they're obviously building around right now. Chris Jericho, if he opts to return at some point, which I think he will. There's a lot of good talent to work around in that promotion right now. Naito, LIJ, Chaos. Like, there's a lot of people that they can build around in that promotion that they'll be just fine. New Japan is not going to sink or swim based on the Kenny Omega leaving or going or staying or whatever. But back to your original question when it comes to the New Japan guys not being able to come over for WrestleMania weekend, I don't know what the status of that was. I wish I did. I'm sure they will pull through at the last second, but I think it's less of a New Japan issue and more of a government issue. And I'm sure, again, WrestleMania weekend is not for another 2 months, a little under 2 months. I'm sure they'll have everything up and running by then. Fingers crossed anyway. I know that's saying a lot about our current government system here in the U.S. Again, I'm not all that knowledgeable about the current government shutdown situation, but just purely my speculation, I would assume that everything will be good to go by WrestleMania weekend. If not, they could be pretty fucked. I mean, I don't know if the MSG show will be affected, because I heard some people saying, oh, it's just this upcoming tour. The MSG event's going to be fine. Is it, though, or is that just opinion, or is that just a prediction that the MSG show won't be affected? There's a decent chance the MSG show, if this shit is not resolved by then, that it may not feature the likes of Okada, it may not feature Tanahashi, which is what people are going for. I mean, the Ring of Honor show is going to be great, don't get me wrong, the ROH portion of it, but people are still going to see Okada and Tanahashi for the first time in the States, here at least on the East Coast, for the first time in a long time, if not ever. So, I've never seen Okada and Tanahashi in person before, so that's going to be cool, and I'll be at that show, but if they don't appear, they're kind of fucked. I mean, the fact that Omega, the Bucks, and Cody, none of those guys are going to be there is a pretty big blow in and of itself, but they already sold the tickets, they don't care. But again, hopefully they can pull through and find some sort of solution for this issue, even if it means getting the government back up and running again. Obviously, New Japan will not be responsible for that, but if that's the only solution, there's really not much that New Japan can do other than just hope that all this shit blows over by the time early April comes. That's all we can really do at this point. Speaking of Jay White, FD's second question, a lot of people seemed unsatisfied with Switchblade Jay White becoming New Japan's latest top Gaijin, I think, again, that's how you pronounce it, Gaijin star, after his recent IWGP Heavyweight Championship win yesterday from what I saw on social media. Do you agree or disagree on their opinion, and do you think Jay White will be a success for New Japan? I'm a Jay White fan. I like Jay White. I've been watching Jay White since his Ring of Honor days. That's not going back too far, but he was on excursion from New Japan for about a year or so, from 2015 to 2016, if not 2016 to 2017. And he had some really good matches with Punishment Martinez and a few others at that time, and now SoCal Uncensored and a few others. The guy's a really good talent. He kind of seemed a bit underdeveloped and a bit generic early on as a heel when he first went heel about a year or so ago. But he's really come into his own in the last year, and to their credit, New Japan has done a great job of building him up as a top star, with wins over Tanahashi in the G1, beating him for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship recently after a month-long reign from Tanahashi, and also beating Okada clean back at Wrestle Kingdom a month ago. So Jay White has, in short order, become New Japan's new top star. And I haven't seen a lot of negative publicity about Switchblade becoming champion. I really haven't. About 6 months to a year ago, I saw a lot of people like, oh, Switchblade is so boring, and I still see the detractors of Switchblade Jay White, but I've seen a lot of people come around on him. A lot of people. From what I saw a lot of people were thrilled with the fact that Jay White became champion on Monday, Sunday night, whatever it was. I don't know, at least from what I saw on Twitter, I saw a lot of people happy with the fact that the title change stands. I like Tanahashi, I think the guy's a legend, but been there, done that. It's like John Cena regaining the gold. It's like when John Cena won the belt back at Royal Rumble 2017 for his record-setting 16th WWE Championship, only to drop it 2 weeks later to Bray Wyatt. It was a cool moment, but the fact that his reign would last more than 2 weeks, his reign should have lasted more than 2 weeks, let's be honest, considering how historic of a reign and win it was. But Tanahashi isn't that much different, where we've seen him hold the championship before. Granted, not for a few years, but there really wasn't much interest in him being champion long term. So to get the belt on him off of Omega just to put it on Jay White, I think is a perfectly fine idea. We'll see where they go with it. We'll see how long he reigns as champion. But it seems like he'll be champion going into the MSG show over WrestleMania weekend, which is fucking cool because, again, I'm a Jay White fan, so to see him in person as the IWGP champion is going to be awesome. So I'm looking forward to that. But I'm a big Jay White fan. I'm very happy with the push that he's been getting recently in New Japan. And again, for those that aren't even Switchblade fans, you have to appreciate the effort by New Japan to get this guy over and to make him out to be a top star. Because again, they lost Kenny Omega. They lost Cody. They lost the Young Bucks. The Bullet Club aren't nearly as hot without those guys now that those guys have since moved on. So they need new stars. They need top new top stars. Okada's great, Tanahashi's great, but you can't rely on them forever. So Jay White being brought in to become this new top heel in the promotion, I think is an awesome idea. We'll see where it goes, but so far, color me intrigued. His third question: do you think the Raw segment from Monday night where Becky Lynch got suspended and Charlotte Flair replaced Becky for the WrestleMania match against Ronda Rousey is WWE's way? Is it their way to strategize the match to become a triple threat once the build of WrestleMania has been settled? If so, is it a good move for the WWE in building this feud? So I assume your question means, are they building a triple threat match for WrestleMania? The answer is yes. This has been rumored for weeks that they would get Charlotte involved in some form or fashion. We found out Monday how exactly that transpired, with Mr. McMahon saying that, she deserves it. Sorry, Becky, you're out. Charlotte, you're in. Blah, blah, blah. So obviously, as of right now, on paper, it's Charlotte and Ronda. It's going to end up being Charlotte, Becky, and Ronda, which is fine. The match is going to be great. It's not the worst thing in the world, but really the first ever all-women's WrestleMania main event should be Becky and Ronda one-on-one. That's the match people wanted to see back at Survivor Series. That was the match people wanted to see coming out of the Royal Rumble. There is no reason for Charlotte Flair to be in that match. I've said it a million times before here on this show and on Wrestle Rant Radio and every platform possible. Charlotte Flair does not need to be in the main event of WrestleMania with Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey. It's completely unnecessary. Fucking Alexis, prime example here. She is not a Becky Lynch fan in the slightest, but she was pissed over the fact that Charlotte Flair was being added in. Obviously, Becky will be re-added to the match at some point in the near future, but it's still going to be a triple threat. Now, they could always get Charlotte out of there completely and plug her in with Asuka for the SmackDown Women's Championship instead, which is what I would do, because if not Charlotte, then who the fuck faces Asuka at WrestleMania? We talked about this last week. That's at Jeremy8911's question from Twitter. To answer his question right now, who do you think will face Asuka at WrestleMania? I think I'm still sticking with my guns here and saying Charlotte. They do not need Charlotte and Rousey and Lynch. Why not plug her in with Asuka? Because if it's not Charlotte, then who the fuck do you have Asuka face at WrestleMania? Reportedly, there's already plans for her to have a big WrestleMania match, but again, against who? Shayna Baszler's busy right now. She would have been a fine choice had she been called up after the Royal Rumble, but she's obviously still down in NXT. Zelina Vega, no. The Iconics, of course not. Lana's a joke. Carmella, been there, done that. Naomi, been there, done that. That's not a WrestleMania match in the slightest. I don't know. I feel like Charlotte is the only woman on that roster that makes sense to face Asuka at WrestleMania. I mean, they have a history from last year. Charlotte beat Asuka to break her undefeated streak, so why not play off of that? Again, Charlotte is not needed in the fucking Lynch and Rousey match. So I would take her out. They still have plenty of time before WrestleMania to alter that match and make it a one-on-one match again between Rousey and Lynch. But what I would do with Asuka is plug Charlotte in there and have that be the WrestleMania match, because it makes sense. Asuka's never beaten Charlotte one-on-one by pinfall. She needs to avenge the loss from last year. Even if she doesn't, even if Charlotte wins, at least it gives Asuka a prominent marquee match at WrestleMania as opposed to sitting ringside for the fucking WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal. At Oasis Bullet from Twitter as well, his question was, who do you see taking the Cruiserweight Championship off of Buddy Murphy? I think I talked about this earlier, but like at WrestleMania, WrestleMania would be the optimal time to have him drop the championship. It could be in some throwaway multi-man match, which I would hope not. I would hope that he would retain, a lot like he did at the Rumble. But again, no one on the current 205 Live roster makes sense to me on paper as a worthy successor to the championship. I like Leo Rush, but the guy's a heel, so he's not the next Cruiserweight champion. Akira Tozawa, no. Cedric Alexander, been there, done that. Mustafa Ali has since moved on. Been there, done that anyway. Who else even is there? Kalisto, been there, done that again. We've seen Buddy Murphy and Kalisto before. We've seen Kalisto as a 1 or 2-time Cruiserweight champion. We don't need to go down that route again, down that path again. So I would say no to that. There really isn't many other people. Humberto Carrillo, again, even Buddy Murphy beat him about a month ago. So there really aren't many other people for him to face and for him to lose the championship to that he hasn't already beaten. Hideo Itami's gone. Ari Daivari, no way. I think Buddy Murphy, I don't know if they did Buddy Murphy Noam Dar yet. I feel like they were going to, but they changed plans. But even that, Tony Nese, I really have no desire to see anyone from the current Cruiserweight roster beat Buddy Murphy for the belt. Unless, as they mentioned earlier, they call up either ACH, Trevor Lee, right off the bat, and insert them into the 205 Live mix, or Kushida, which would be fucking awesome. I could see Buddy Murphy retaining the championship in a multi-man match at WrestleMania, or the kickoff show, whatever, only for Kushida to show up on the subsequent episode of 205 Live. I think that'd be great. I think that'd be a great way to get over Kushida right off the bat and have him be the one to take that championship right off of Buddy Murphy, and he'll be a star from the get-go. So that's what I would do. I think the post-WrestleMania crowd would react to Kushida taking the championship, or, arriving to challenge Buddy Murphy for the championship before beating him for the belt at the subsequent pay-per-view. That's what I would do. Purely fantasy booking. Realistically speaking, I really do not know. At Jeremy 8911, his second question here. After his performance on SmackDown, could you see Kofi Kingston winning the WWE Championship at WrestleMania? I can't. I really can't. I thought he had a hell of a performance, don't get me wrong. He definitely did. I didn't watch the show until just this past evening, so I saw people talking about Kofi on Twitter. I figured he did well in the gauntlet, if not won the whole thing. He didn't win the whole thing, but he did go over an hour. He beat Daniel Bryan clean, which was amazing. He beat Jeff Hardy. He beat Samoa Joe. So he had a hell of a run in that gauntlet match. But no, Kofi Kingston. I mean, again, if he won the title, if you said the chamber match, I'd be like, okay, maybe. Because they could put the belt on Kofi only to have him drop the belt right back to Daniel Bryan at Fastlane. Because he did pin Daniel Bryan. So there is a reason to do another match between the two one-on-one past Elimination Chamber. That wouldn't be a bad idea, because I don't know what the hell else you do with Daniel Bryan if he's not feuding with fucking Kofi Kingston or whoever else going into WrestleMania. But no, I would not do Daniel Bryan and Kofi WrestleMania. I feel like that's just not a WrestleMania-worthy match. I might be wrong. I said the same thing about Mustafa Ali a few months ago, and I kind of changed my opinion on that in the last couple of weeks. And obviously that's not happening because Ali has since been injured. I'll talk more about that in a second. But, yeah, and I don't know. Bryan and Kofi as a WrestleMania match really just does not do much for me. If they built up Kofi over the course of a few months, I mean, again, it's only February. They maybe possibly could before April, but New Day has been such a fucking joke for so long now. And I like New Day a lot, but they've been a joke tag team for years. So for Kofi to emerge out of nowhere to win the WWE Championship at WrestleMania, I feel like having him chase the belt and having him win the title is cool, but like, where do you go beyond that? Because the guy's just not a main event player. That's something I never really understood. Yeah, he had a lot of momentum about a decade ago, and the guy's a really good athlete, but to me, Kofi has never, ever stood out as like a perennial main event player. Ever. The guy's great in the ring. Beyond the New Day stuff, the guy just doesn't have much of a character. He doesn't scream interesting to me. I like Kofi Kingston, don't get me wrong. I'm not pooping on the guy here. But like, oh, Kofi Kingston, he's always been underutilized. Like, he's right where he should be. He's not below, he's not above. He's right where he should be, either in the tag team division or in the mid-card division. I can only see him win the IC and US titles the fucking those mid-card titles so many times before it gets old. Same thing with the tag titles. He's like a fucking 20-time tag team champion. But with Kofi, the guy's not WWE Championship material. At least not long-term. So, yeah, it would be a fresh match, I guess, but I would rather see that, if anything. I'm not completely against the idea of putting the belt on Kingston. You can do it for a few weeks between Chamber and Fastlane if you wanted to. I think that'd be a really cool moment. I just would not do Kofi and Bryan one-on-one at WrestleMania, considering Kofi's been a undercard tag team guy for like the past 5 years. I feel like that comes completely out of nowhere, and it's a complete waste of every other main eventer you have on that show. They have fucking Shinsuke Nakamura doing nothing right now. I'm not saying it's going to be Bryan and Nakamura WrestleMania, but Nakamura's not doing anything. Rusev's not doing anything. Andrade, Rey Mysterio, they're feuding right now, but they could be in that spot instead. You could have Samoa Joe in that spot. Even fucking Jeff Hardy would be a better fit for that spot than Kofi. I like Kofi. Him winning the title at WrestleMania does not do much for me. Again, as a one-off thing at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view for a day or two, if not for 3 weeks before he would drop the belt right back to Daniel Bryan at Fastlane, I think that's cool. and it switches things up. It's unpredictable, and he finally gets his long-awaited World Championship win. That's awesome. I do not see Kofi in the New Day as a long-term main event act at all. Maybe back in 2015, fucking 4 years ago. In 2019, I have no desire to see any member of the New Day, while they're with the New Day, as WWE champion, especially around WrestleMania season. At Scarlet1 from Twitter, their first question was, thoughts on Mustafa Ali's injury? It sucks. From what I read, he suffered an eye injury in the match with Randy Orton on SmackDown last Tuesday. And then he suffered a concussion or another injury or some sort of injury over the weekend at a live event. So the guy's pretty beat up right now. The eye injury was fine. The concussion obviously was a no-go. That's a no-go. Hopefully he can get back in the ring soon enough. I don't think it's anything major, but the timing was absolutely terrible because the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view is on Sunday, so he can't compete. That's just awful. So hopefully he's back in time for WrestleMania. I said this in my Bleacher Report article with bold predictions, like way too early predictions for WrestleMania. I did say in that article that Mustafa Ali should walk out of WrestleMania the new United States champion. I am still on that train. I don't know where the hell R-Truth is as United States champion. I don't know where the hell the SmackDown Women's champion is either. Asuka, she's been persona non grata since the Royal Rumble, which is sad. But with Ali, I think he has a lot of momentum right now. Hopefully, if he's cleared by WrestleMania, he can walk out of that event as the new United States champion. But when it comes to Ali's injury, very poor timing. The guy's had a great run so far on SmackDown, and hopefully he can recover in time for WrestleMania. At Scarlet1's second question here, have you heard about Corey Graves' Twitter rant on Sunday? So, yeah, I was getting out of work, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Because I was checking my timeline, and I see Corey Graves going off on all these people, which was kind of unnecessary. I mean, maybe in one or two instances he's trying to shut certain people up, but he was replying to, like, everybody, like journalists, fans, you name it, he was replying to them about all this shit, going off on people. First of all, this should surprise no one. I know he has issues with Punk, and that's fine, but he went off on his Twitter right after Punk lost last year, which has completely nothing to do with anything. He's like, good, you deserved it. He's like, oh, Punk abandoned us when he needed us most. Again, if you want to feel that way, whatever, but the fact that he would go public with it like he's his fucking ex-girlfriend or something was so petty, and it was sad. It was sad, really. Sad, ridiculous, dumb, and petty. And he seemed to have done the same thing. And I like Corey Graves a lot. I met the guy a few times. He's a really nice guy. For whatever reason, he just goes off on Twitter, and they just need to have him either delete his account or tone it down. And the thing is that he goes on all of these Twitter hiatuses, and they amount to nothing. The guy's back the very next day or two. So, again, I can't even tell you what it was about. He was talking about, I know you had sent me a link on Reddit to what he was ranting about, but he was ranting about, like, food stamps and how he had food stamps and how no one else has any excuse to not get what they want in life and all this other shit. He was going off on some journalists, like I said. David Bixenspan, I believe his name is. He used to write for Bleacher Report. He now writes for Deadspin, so pretty notable journalist. He was going off on him, even though David had said nothing to warrant a response from Corey to go off on him the way that he did. So David was completely in the right there. I don't know what the fuck is going on. It was a really weird situation. And I was reading my timeline, and I'm like, wow, this is just sad. Because there was a point where a lot of people were big Corey Graves fans. I don't get that sense anymore. I really don't. And maybe it's not his Twitter activity as much as it is his commentary. I'm still a Corey Graves fan. I'm still a Corey Graves guy. I still like his commentary, but I could see why a lot of people have since turned on him, if only because of how he acts online. And honestly, I can't blame them. At Scarlet1's third question here, do you think WWE and or Ronda Rousey herself are hesitant to turn her heel? There's a theory going around that Charlotte being inserted into the women's WrestleMania match is so that she can absorb all the heat instead of Ronda, who has seemed very uncomfortable with getting booed. That's not that bad of a theory. I mean, I think they were going to be planning on doing this three-way no matter what, like dating back even way before Ronda had, started getting booed around the Rumble. I mean, she's been booed before, but not nearly as heavily as she was the night after the Royal Rumble. But I could see why they would think that in their head, that putting Charlotte in the match leads to her becoming the big bad guy in the match and not so much Ronda Rousey. And it gets the heat off of Rousey and puts it on Charlotte. And this way, if you have Becky win at WrestleMania, she can pin Charlotte, and that way it protects Ronda Rousey. She loses, but she doesn't lose one-on-one. Which, again, like I've said before, I think if there's any time to have Ronda Rousey lose, it would be at WrestleMania, and it would be to Becky Lynch. That's, again, strictly my opinion. But when it comes to Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair, again, I could see why they would be thinking that. Like, oh, if we put Charlotte in there, she'll be booed instead of Ronda, and people will be either indifferent or cheer Ronda even. I don't think that's the case. I feel like they tried to do something similar a few years ago at WrestleMania. Not a few years ago, it'd be 15 years ago at this point. WrestleMania 20, it was Triple H as the big bad guy in the match, and then Shawn Michaels and Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit won anyway, but Shawn Michaels being in there, you would think that he would have gotten cheered. He didn't, though. He got booed out of the building every time he was in there. Maybe not as much as Triple H was, but the crowd only really wanted Benoit to win, not Shawn Michaels. I feel like they're thinking the same thing will happen here where, oh, they'll rally behind both Ronda and Becky now. They'll just rally behind Becky. Adding Charlotte may take some heat off of Ronda, but not all of it by a long shot. Becky will still be cheered 10 times louder than Ronda and Charlotte at WrestleMania, and hopefully she, the WWE has enough common sense to put her over, but nothing is ever guaranteed in this company, we know. Their next question, thoughts on the Revival's tag team title win on Raw and how well their reign will turn out. I thought the match was great. The match that they had with Chad Gable and Bobby Roode I thought was awesome. Easily the best Raw tag team title match I've seen probably since the Raw match between Ziggler, Rollins, McIntyre, and Ambrose that happened on the same night that Dean Ambrose turned on Seth Rollins. That was an awesome match, but yeah, this match was great. They were given the time, and they turned an absolutely dead crowd who, when I saw people pooping on the crowd like, oh, why isn't the crowd enjoying this? Why are they so dead? Dude, the show sucked. Monday's Raw was beyond boring. It was like the cure for insomnia. So I don't blame that crowd at all, first of all. Second of all, it's a real testament to their talent that they were able to turn a dead crowd into a lively one, chanting, "This is awesome" by 3/4 through the matchup. That takes a lot of skill and a lot of talent, and they did that. Not just the Revival, but Roode and Gable too. They're all great, and I thought the match was awesome. They've been getting some rave reviews on indie shows. Not indie shows. Fucking like a high school gym. No, might as well be, considering the attendance. But the house shows. The house shows I've heard, they've been having some great matches, like 30, 40 minutes. That's a fucking long time to do a Raw Tag Team title match with 4 guys that the crowd largely does not care about. So that's some real risky business. So the right person must have seen those matches, or at least one of those matches, and thought, hey, that's a good idea to do on Raw one of these weeks. They gave them the opportunity, and they shined. The crowd cared, and it was a great match. The finish was fantastic. The Revival finally win. Thank God. Far later than it should have taken them to win Tag Team title gold on the main roster, but nonetheless, better late than never. I thought it was a great match. I'm very happy the Revival are finally the Raw Tag Team champions, but this is only the beginning. Becoming champions was only part of the problem. Now they have to hold on to the gold for a substantial period of time and bring back some prestige and importance and honor to tag team wrestling in WWE. Like, it's one thing for them to be WWE Raw Tag Team Champions. It's a whole other thing to be actually on TV. R-Truth has not been seen on SmackDown since he won the fucking U.S. title 3 weeks ago. Same thing with Asuka in the SmackDown Women's Championship. She beat Becky in this huge moment of the Royal Rumble. We haven't seen Asuka since. That's ridiculous. That is completely unexcusable. The Revival, they may have become Raw Tag Team Champions on Monday, but will we see them next Monday? Will we see them the Monday after that? And will they be involved in anything of note? And again, a great match, a great rematch with Roode and Gable will go a long way in further establishing them as credible champions, but they have to win. They have to win more matches and be featured more prominently and get tag team wrestling back on the map in this company. It has its ups and it has its downs. It's a complete roller coaster ride, more so than anything else in WWE when it comes to tag team wrestling. And when it's featured, how it's featured, how often, and who's featured in the tag team title scene and stuff like that. You'll have four elite athletes in Ambrose, McIntyre, Rollins, Ziggler fighting for the gold at Hell in the Cell. And then a couple months later, it's Gable, Roode, and AOP. in a match that no one cares about. So again, and I wrote this on Twitter too, they got to hold on to the gold for at least over 2-3 months. I wrote this on Twitter the other day, or maybe a week ago or so, but no tag team has held the WWE Tag Team titles for more than 100 days since the New Day. And I'm talking about the Raw Tag titles. I'm not talking about the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. I'm talking about the Raw Tag titles. Every team to have held the Raw Tag Team titles since 2017, over 2 years ago, was the last reign that lasted over 500 days. And that was the New Day. And the New Day held the championship for over 500 days. Now, again, there's something to be said for, playing hot potato with the belts, because we had one set of champions for so long. Why shouldn't we change the championship, every so often? But no one's getting over as champions. Roode and Gable lasted all of 2 months. They won the belts back in fucking December. They lost them this past Monday, as they should have, but their reign was hardly memorable. Before them, it was AOP. They won the championships. They weren't even champions for a month before they dropped the belts to Roode and Gable. That was a completely forgettable Raw Tag Team title reign. Before them, it was Ambrose and Rollins. They held the belts for a night. Well, really a couple weeks, but Ambrose then, decided to turn on Seth Rollins. Before them, McIntyre and Ziggler, who had a good reign, but they were champions for all of a month and a half. Before them, it was the B Team, whose reign was an absolute joke, and that lasted less than 2 months. Before them, Hardy and Wyatt, who did nothing as Raw Tag Team Champions. They were barely even on the show from April to June. Before then, it was The Bar, or it was Strowman and Nicholas that lasted all of a night at WrestleMania. Before that, The Bar, who had held the championships from the Rumble to WrestleMania. Before them, it was Ambrose and Rollins, who held the belts for a month. Before them, it was The Bar for like a month and a half. Before them, it was Rollins and Ambrose, who held the championships for all of 2 months. No, for them, I think it was like a little over 2 months. It wasn't 3 months exactly, but it was. They never surpassed 100 days. They were close, though. They were a little bit longer reigning than most other teams I've mentioned. Before them, it was The Bar again, who held the belts from June of 2017 to SummerSlam, and they dropped them to Rollins and Ambrose. Before them, it was the Hardys, who held them for 2 months coming out of WrestleMania 33. And before them, it was Gallows and Anderson, who had the belts for 2 months from Rumble to WrestleMania. And before them, it was The Bar, who held the belts for like a month, coming off of Roadblock, going into the Royal Rumble. And then the New Day, who held the belts for over like 500 days. So I would hope that the Revival will hold on to the Raw Tag Team Championships for at least 3 months, if not longer. If not, they are completely justified in wanting to leave. So hopefully this is merely the beginning of bigger and better things for the Revival on Raw, but I'm not holding my breath. Final question of the day, also from @Scarlet1. Hopes and worries for Elimination Chamber. Hopes that both chamber matches will be good and entertaining and not be riddled with interference and all this other dumb, nonsensical bullshit. I'm just hoping for a good show, really. Elimination Chamber is very rarely a must-see show. It's usually very predictable, just because it's so close to WrestleMania, and it's hardly a newsworthy show. The last real good Elimination Chamber pay-per-view I remember watching was the 2017 installment when Bray Wyatt became champion, Naomi became champion. I thought that was a good show for the most part. Last year's show I thought was entertaining, but by far nothing special whatsoever. The 2016 show, I don't think we had one in 2016. 2015 was not that great, aside from like 1 or 2 matches. 2014 was pretty predictable, just not exciting. 2013 too, 2012 same thing. 2011 I thought was a great show. 2010 So most Elimination Chamber pay-per-views really are not that great, so I'm just hoping for a good show. Worries that maybe that Nia Jax and Tamina will walk out the new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. Nothing is worse. The only real thing worse than having Nia and Tamina as a tag team on Raw is having them as a tag team on Raw and SmackDown. So let's hope to God that's not the case. I could see them lasting long and I could see them lasting until the very end before Banks and Bayley finally beat them. Fingers crossed, though, they do not prolong this feud by having Jax and Tamina win on Sunday and then Banks and Bayley win at WrestleMania. Just get it over with now and put the belts on I hope not, on Bayley and Banks at Elimination Chamber. That's what I would do. But that's one worry. That's really about it. Strowman and Corbin, I could not give two shits about. Balor and Lashley, And Leo Rush, I really could not give two shits about. Murphy and Tozawa should be a good match. I expect Tozawa to lose. Again, I'm just hoping for two good chamber matches, if nothing else. The chamber matches usually deliver. It's kind of hard to fuck up a chamber match. They've done it before. The tag team one a few years ago is pretty abysmal. And Sundays will also be a tag team one just with the women. So I'm hoping they can pull out a good match. They can pull out a memorable performance for the right reasons, of course. Beyond that, what else is even happening on Sunday? Ronda and Riot, I really don't care because we know Ronda's winning. Miz and Shane versus the Usos. I'm mildly intrigued by that. I don't think the Usos are winning, but the match should be fun. And that's really about it as far as I can remember in terms of matches happening on Sunday. So no real worries, no real hopes, just aside from I hope that it's going to be a good show and it won't be it won't be a waste of my time when I watch it back on Monday. I'm not watching the show live on Sunday. So for those listening that may text me or tweet me or IM me or whatever the fuck, email me with the results from Elimination Chamber, please don't. I will very likely not be watching live. I'll be working Sunday, so I'm hoping to catch up on all the action on Monday with Alexis, so stay tuned for that. Nonetheless, guys, thank you for tuning in to today's edition of #AskGSM episode 272. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So with all that being said, guys, enjoy Elimination Chamber this Sunday on the WWE Network. I'll be watching Monday. Enjoy the rest of the road to WrestleMania. And in case you missed it, I did announce it on Twitter on Tuesday? I think it was Monday. I am Vegas bound. I am Double or Nothing bound for Memorial Day weekend. Could not be any more excited about it. More details to come on WrestleRant Radio this Thursday. So stay tuned for that. And just be well, guys. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.